Okay, this is lesson 2.10. Here's your do now problems for today. They're on page 124 of your math book. So go ahead and open to page 124 and complete these 4 problems. If you don't have your book, pause, do them now. Let's go over these problems. All right, so the first one is an adding problem. And remember, with adding, you just line up your decimals. So line up your decimals nice and add everything in neat rows, remembering that that everything should be lined up in columns. And so it's just 20 and 6/10 of a meter. All right, I'm going to read the next one. Selena bought 3.75 pounds of meat for $4.64 per pound. What was the total cost of the meal? So here, we're multiplying on this one. Remember, look how a couple things I want you to remember when you multiply is that as we multiply the 5 times everything on top and we get the first row of numbers. When you move to the second row of numbers, you put in a placeholder to get over to the 7. And then 2 placeholders here when you do your third row of numbers to get over to the 3. And then you just ignore the decimal, do regular multiplying until the very end, and you count 1, 2, 3, 4 digits, 1, 2, 3, 4 spots. So it's going to cost $17.40 for that meat. All right, the next one. Melanie prepared 7.5 tablespoons of spice mixture. She uses a 1/4 teaspoon to make a batch of barbecue sauce. Estimate the number of batches of barbecue sauce that she can make using the spice mixture. So they wanted us to estimate. Either of these estimates will work. So I did 7.5 divided by the 4, 1/4 tablespoon for each batch. And then I just made this, remember, dividing fractions is easy as pie. Flip the second, so the second number would turn into multiplying by 4, because 4 over 1 is the same as 4. So if you chose to use 7, be 28. The more appropriate answer would be to round this up to the 8, and it would be 32. But I'm still kind of teaching you guys that half means to round up. So we'll stick with a 32, but 28 will also work. All right, so this one, Arturo mixed together 1 24 of a pound of pretzels, 7/8 pounds of nuts, 3/10 pounds of candy, and 2 pounds of popcorn. He then packaged it into bags that contained 27/100 of a pound. How many bags could he fill? So I added all these things together, lining up my decimals, and I had 4 32/100 of a pound was the total amount of stuff that he had. I took that amount of stuff and divided it by the 0.27, because that's how much each bag will have, and we want to know how many bags. So we cannot have a decimal in our divisor. We need to multiply by 100 to move it 2 spots. So we also multiply by 100 over here to move it 2 spots, because whatever you do to the bottom, you got to do the top to make these equivalent. Same with inside and outside of a division problem. If you multiply this by 100 and move your decimal, you also have to move your decimal here to make it equivalent. All right, so when we divide, we get 16. So in the end, you'll have 16 bags that he could fill. Okay, so today we do some problem solving for lesson 2.10. So first I wanted to start with a problem like this because they talk a little bit about dividing this in 2, and I just wanted you to know what it looked like. So if we start at 2.5 on our number line, here's 2.5, and we are dividing it in half. What I had to do was I had to figure out, like, I divided these each into quarters, right? So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And once I had those divided into quarters, I counted the total number of quarters to get to a half. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What's half of 10? 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jumps over, gets me to 1 1/4. So that is how to show that division on a number line. I wanted to make sure I showed that to you. We can also check this problem. Let's check this problem by first making this into an improper fraction. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Dividing fractions is easy as pie. Flip the second and multiply. There isn't anything to simplify there, so we're just going to multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom. We get 5 over 4, which is an improper top-heavy fraction. So we see how many times 4 will fit in there, one whole time with 1 left over, so we get 1 1/4. So that is how you do this on a number line and then actually use the math to do that problem. All right, this is one that will be on your Think Central assignment today. It might have a little bit different numbers, but it will be on there, and I thought it was a tough one that we should go over together. So there are 6 gallons of distilled water in the science supplies. If 10 students each use an equal amount of water and there's 1 gallon left in the supplies, how much will each student get? So we start with 6 gallons and we leave 1 gallon in the supplies. So that would be 6 minus 1 equals 5. That's how many gallons are used. We're using 5 gallons, and 10 students use that 5 gallons. So we would do 5 divided by 10 students, which can also be written as 5 over 10. And then when you simplify this, 5 will fit into both of those. So we will get 1/2. 1/2 gallon per student will be used for this science experiment. Okay, let's do the next one. This is also one that you'll see today on your Think Central assignment 2.10. There is 4/5 of a pound of sand in the class science supplies. If 1 scoop of sand weighs 1/20 of a pound, how many scoops of sand can Maria get from the class supplies and still leave a 1/2 pound in the supplies? So first we want to get rid of that 1/2 pound. So we're going to start with 4/5 of a pound, and we're going to get rid of the 1/2 that we got to leave in the supplies. Okay, well, when we add and subtract fractions, you guys know from earlier in the chapter, we need a common denominator, and that should be your least common multiple. So if I count by 2s and I count by 5s, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and I count by 5s, 5, 10, we see that 10 is the LCM, least common multiple, for those two numbers. So we're going to use that as our denominator. We have to figure out, what do I multiply 5 by to get to 10? 5 times 2 is 10, so whatever I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. 4 times 2 is 8. Then I look over here, what do I multiply by? And whatever I do to the bottom, I need to do to the top. I like these little clouds to remind you. 2 times 5 equals 10. So 1 times 5 will give us our numerator. Then we subtract, and I get 3/10. So 3/10 of a pound is what she uses. Now we want to know, how many scoops can she get from that? So how many scoops can she get? So how many 1/20 scoops? So I'm going to divide it into scoops of 1/20. Divide it into scoops of 1/20. All right, so there's our new problem. Here you just say, I'm dividing, they're already not mixed numbers, they're already fractions, and there isn't any whole number in front of them. So we just use our dividing fractions as easy as pie, flip the second, and multiply. I see simplification here. These are both divided by 10. Then I multiply my numerators, multiply my denominators, and I get 6 scoops is the amount that she can get out of there. So 6 scoops that are each 1/20 of a pound, that's how many she can get out of 3/10. All right, now this is going to be a little more difficult, this one, because there's lots of reading and trying to figure out, but I will help you along the best I can as we get through this. You'll do just fine.